left Christianity and fundamentalist religion, I realized that churches teach its members that female equality and social respect towards women are philosophies Satan created to destroy the sexist, heterosexual family unit. So whenever you've heard of feminism or female independence in Christianity, there always seems to be an underlining, insidious agenda. I'm not saying that agenda exists. I'm saying that privileged, white, heterosexual cis men make it appear as though anything that brings equality to women, gays, trans, or anybody who is marginalized or disrespected, wanting to make those lives matter, like Black Lives Matter, is something that's immediately villainized. And we create laws in this country to protect the innocent and control the deviant, the people who will take advantage of other people, the CEOs, the businessmen, the privileged white abusers. We create laws to protect the vulnerable. And yet there are men out there, usually white, that make a big deal about how creating laws that protect women will end up hurting men. How in the world does a law created, like in Tennessee, where they had that domestic violence registry, just like the sex offender registry, but it's for a twice or more convicted domestic violence perpetrators. And men were saying how innocent men would be targeted. My opinion is, if you don't put your hands on a woman or on a man, you have no fear of being labeled a domestic abuser. They would claim that women would try to rile men up to commit domestic violence. You can't rile someone up to hit you. You are in control of your own body, and you are responsible for your actions. And people who are convicted of domestic violence once, they're not put on that list. It's twice or more. And men don't like women to have accountability or equality. Women get away with crime, very small crime, nothing compared to men, but women will get away with certain kinds of crime because of the inequality of the sexes. I heard it's going to take about 300 years to gain equality for all groups of people. For gay people, it's probably going to take longer than 300 years. But, in 300 years, everyone mostly will probably have equality. I wish I could live in that time, but I don't and won't be living in that time. But when an institution that is surrounded, controlled, and instigated by cis heterosexual, privileged, usually white men, they don't want women to have equality, because when the submissive, silent people gain equality, men lose their monopoly. It's the same with slave owners. Once you're no longer a slave owner because you have no slaves, you aren't as powerful and privileged as they used to be. Because the more free people exist, the more equal people exist. When you're used to privilege, equality feels like oppression. It's so true. Men have systematically oppressed women from the dawn of time, however long that has been. The patriarchy was created by privileged people in power, probably white people, to marginalize, dehumanize, to control, to own, and to exploit women. That's why conservative, right-wing, Republican Christians villainize feminism. Feminism is just allowing everyone, regardless of gender, sex, orientation, or ethnicity, everyone should have equal access, equal chance of having everything everyone else has. To choose what life you want, not because it's the only role expected of your gender, but because you have a genuine passion, drive, and dream to do it. We villainize women who choose to prioritize their own needs. And yet, we don't villainize men when they pursue their own dreams. We call it a career. We call, when women do it, a homewrecker. When men are single, they're a bachelor. When women are single and man-free, we call them cat ladies. Our society doesn't want women to have equality, because when women achieve equality, there won't be two sexes anymore. Gender has been used to kill, maim, control, abuse, traffic, and exploit women of all distinctions. Feminism isn't satanic. Feminism is what everything should have already been, but men prevented, religion enabled, and together, religion and politics created an environment where women's invisible labor just don't matter. Basically, all holidays, anniversaries, birthdays, parties, and events would not happen, period, if it wasn't for the invisible, usually unpaid labor of women. And feminism should have always existed. We shouldn't even live in a society where feminism isn't something that should be fought for. We should already have had equality. If our society wasn't run exclusively by men, we would have achieved that equality centuries ago. If men actually consistently cared about women's pain, women's hardships, and women are a problem just for existing in this society, we have a problem. I grew up my entire childhood believing that feminism was evil, that women asserting their own desires, dreams, and pursuing something that makes them happy, which is something men do every day without being villainized, we treat women like they're male accessories. Women aren't bracelets or necklaces or a handbag. They're human beings. Women should not exist to make a man's life better. They should exist because they have their own story, in which they're the center point of their own story. For decades, women in movies were used as love interests, one-dimensional, no career, no interests of their own. They existed solely to be won by a male-privileged white man. Women deserve better. And if women have to assert their own desires, their own interests, their own pursuits ahead of any man who would already expect somebody to give him the same treatment, but he won't return the favor, sometimes it's just best to travel life alone than to be with someone and know what being alone really means. Growing up in fundamentalist Southern Baptist churches was just misery. And it's so sad how instead of women being dynamic leaders who share power and authority with people who are qualified, regardless of how they look, what they believe, and how they live, we would have a great society. If we viewed women who are educated and experienced with as much reverence as we view an ignorant white man or an interesting, experienced white privileged man, we would have a better society. America still believes that a sexist, rapist, male privileged man who bankrupts his own companies is a better leader than an experienced ethnicity, ex-vice president who happens to be a female? What society are we living in? You need to elect somebody in any secular or religious authority expectation. They are a symbol of what you are. And unless you choose the most qualified, the best leader in principle and behavior, if they're not a role model, don't elect them. Women are lucky to hold 25%, 1 out of 4 positions of authority. While we will consistently elect men who aren't qualified, They ruined their own businesses by being awful businessmen. They have no intention of seeing women as respectable human beings and actually boast about sexual assault of women, toward women. Women hasn't and probably won't for at least 200 more years, which I'm really sad about. They will not get the respect in any of our lifetimes that women deserve. Marriage is not equal. Women do 70% of emotional labor. Some do it all. If women woke up today and decided, you know what, I'm done doing emotional labor. I'm going to match my partner's emotional, consistent labor. Dinner would not be made. Dishes wouldn't get washed. Lunches wouldn't be made. Parties wouldn't happen. Because around the world, society hinges on women putting their own lives on hold, seeing themselves as the opposite of the main story character. Women, by and large, they're not even a supporting actor in their story. They're a character on the sidelines. That's what society wants. They want a woman who's pretty, but not too pretty. They want a woman who's a good leader, but not bossy. And if you take away the gender, if you take away the femininity and put masculinity, everything a woman is hated for is applauded in men. And anything they applaud women for is hated in men. Our society hates femininity, and any ideology, belief, religion, or group that centers women's pain, women being inconvenienced, women who are powerless, teaching women how to advocate and use their own agency are villainized by patriarchal, just awful communities. And until churches consistently show women and men that feminism isn't the enemy because it challenges toxic masculinity and heterosexual, bigoted environments, we don't have any hope. When women and female traits are not seen as lesser than, but equal, women will never be seen as equal until we change the way we view femininity. If society really beloved, valued, and worshipped in a positive, healthy way the spectrum of femininity, homophobia wouldn't exist. Transphobia, a man becoming a woman wouldn't be villainized. It would be applauded, and vice versa. Our society despises femininity, feminine sister power, girl power. Anytime a woman doesn't take crap from society, they're villainized. Whatever is condemned against a gender is applauded in the other. And whatever is applauded for one gender is villainized in another. Until men can show their emotions, be consistent, show how much they care, that's just as toxic as women being a trad wife and forgetting she has her own needs. I don't think there is an environment more sexist and more... They have hatred for femininity. They'll screw it, they'll marry it, they will own it, but they will never be caught resembling it, because then you're called the F word or a pansy. Our society will sell things off femininity. We'll even sell it. It's called human trafficking. But if a man ever resembles femininity, you would rather be dead than be viewed as feminine. This is the toxic masculinity that creates the necessity of feminism. Femininity is a spectrum. And just because you're born feminine doesn't mean the person is feminine. There's such a thing as being transgender, which is something that has never been applauded by the church consistently. And our society does not want a woman who is independent, strong, sexual, confident, and doesn't take crap. Society would never accept the behavior that we dish out to women every day. Men would not put up with the disrespect, the infantilization, the dehumanization that women put up with. Men wouldn't take it for an hour, let alone a millennium. If men really had to endure what women do for a whole year, it would rock the structure of our society. If women matched men's consistent labor in relationships wouldn't last. Overall, women are the reason why relationships even take off and stay up above the ground. Our society does not teach men how to be the best versions of masculinity. We don't teach women to be the best parts of femininity, the healthy, the non-toxic part. It astounds me. We can have electric cars, but we still view women's liberation as a demonic ideology. The only thing I would consider evil are people who don't want the valuable people to see themselves as being valuable. That's why Christianity hates feminism. They villainize and demonize anything that alerts women to your needs matter too, just as much as anyone else. And if any man or woman makes you feel bad for having feelings, desires, needs, and expectations, anyone who villainizes you for having one or all of those things are not people you should make a life with or be friends with. If we centered women's needs in every part of life, like we use men as a default, our society would be so beyond feminism, it would just be reality. I avoid any male-centered, male-controlled institution, secular or religious, that views women advocating and using their own agency as a threat, as a demonic presence. It's inhuman the way Christianity and all religion views women having confidence.